Hello, thank you for joining me for another recap of 90 Day Fiancé Happily Ever After. We are now on season 5, episode 10, Drawing the Line. Okay, so we're going to open with a fight between Libby and Andre, Elizabeth and Andre. Imagine that. Of course, we're going back to the messy dinner, and Andre says that he will consider apologizing to Chuck, but that Charlie was just messing around and pushing his buttons. You know what, Andre, here's what. Don't apologize to either one of those criminals. Charlie was responsible for, well, driving intoxicated. He's with a drink in his hand and a spoon up his nose, probably. And Chuck has been responsible for, you know, probably poor families and single mothers desperate for a place to rent, being suddenly thrown out of their house one morning when they find out that their landlord, Chuck, didn't really own the property and was just engaging in rental fraud. This is a scummy family. I don't think there's any major dirt on Elizabeth, but remember, everybody in the family, she's got 2 brothers, one we don't hear about, he's got a record too, and her sisters have records. It seems like the whole family, it's a family tradition to drive without a valid driver's license, for one thing. You've got a lot of DUIs, you got the cocaine, and then you've got, you know, worst of all, Chuck's hideous rental fraud, which is just so low. Again, targeting the weak. Okay, so I mean, honestly, it's very painful for me because I think Andre is basically kind of a stand-up guy, and yeah, okay, maybe you can say, well, how can you say that? He doesn't have a job. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah, he could go out and say, you know, look, I don't want you to work this hard, Elizabeth, although Elizabeth is working for Chuck. So God knows what Chuck is up to these days. I'm sorry. Allegedly, I have no proof that he's engaging in any criminal enterprises, but I mean, I wonder how much of this Andre is aware of. It would be so ironic with them just constantly needling him about what did you do? What did you do wrong in Moldova? Why did you flee to Ireland and then try and scam a green card in America? You know, why did you use our sister to get to America to flee your criminal past? It would be so funny to me. And well, he knows now. Andre knows now because it's all over the place. But you know, one thing someone doesn't think of doing when they're an immigrant coming to America and marrying into a family is just Googling the family and seeing if you can find their mugshots or their rap sheets or their criminal records, because this is all available to anyone. This is not something that you have to be a professional or a law enforcement officer or an attorney to get this information. It's open to everybody. So, yeah. I mean, to me, I think, you know, Andre is the shining star in this entire group. The family's lucky to have him to bring better genes into this crime family of Tampa. Okay, yeah, they all pretty much suck. And that includes the sisters. Don't forget the sisters have their criminal records too. Okay, so once again, during this whole, you know, kind of, they're walking through a park and, you know, he's saying he doesn't want to apologize to Charlie, and once again, Elizabeth threatens to call off the wedding. Everyone's going to do that for this entire episode. Well, you know what? We're going to just not have the wedding. And, you know, Chuck is going to say, well, I'm just not going to pay for the wedding. I'm just going to close my checkbook. And Elizabeth's just, I'm not going to show up for the wedding. You know what? You're married. You're married. He has residency in the United States. So, and you have a baby with him. And he is a 6'4" man. Who was it that said this? I think it was Nikki, the recapper Nikki, whom I love. She said something about a man who's 6'4" with a wide back. And I know exactly what she's talking about. That's my husband. My husband is 6'4" with a wide back. And that's Andre. He is 6'4" with a wide back. He is a fine man. So yeah, she loves him. They have a baby. A lot of this drama is just made for the show anyway, so that marriage isn't going anywhere. So who cares if they do the Moldovan Orthodox wedding or not? Okay, and you know, it's like when she keeps threatening and threatening to do this, I would just be like, good, call it off. Call it off. That's fine. It's fine. You dragged your family over here for nothing. No, that's fine. Let's just go back. That's cool. That's totally cool. Because he knows his family is going to take his side and think, wow, this woman's crazy. They're going to worry about him, but he's not going to look bad to his family and friends. Elizabeth is going to look bad if she cancels the wedding. Okay, now this really bothers me. Andre is using, with Elizabeth, and later he's going to do it with Chuck and Charlie, he uses alcohol as an excuse, saying that he was aggressive because of alcohol. Okay, first of all, you weren't that aggressive. You were being pushed and pushed and poked and poked and poked and poked and poked by Charlie and Chuck, especially by Charlie. And you weren't that aggressive. I mean, Charlie was just being a little bitch, and you weren't being that aggressive. And also, Andre, you weren't that drunk. Unless you're such an alcoholic that you don't show alcohol at all, that you don't show that you've been drinking at all, you're not that drunk. So I don't like it that he's using that as an excuse. I don't like it that he's making excuses, because I don't think that he really behaved all that badly. Again, you have to realize at this point, from everything that I know about Elizabeth's family, oh, and her acting skills and her pitiful career as an actress in independent Christian horror films, there's a genre that I didn't even know existed. Yeah, she made 2 independent Christian horror movies. Okay, anyway, yeah, I would just be like, Andre, just stop it. Just stop it. You know what? Threaten to leave her. Threaten to tell her, I'm going to stay in Moldova. You take the baby back to America. She'll be real nice real fast, because believe me, you're fine. I'm not saying that he's always perfect, you know, but I think that in a lot of cases he acts like the, you know, the Slavic guy, the Slavic macho guy for the show. And of course he was raised in that culture, and that culture is macho Slavic culture. Romanian culture is very macho. So yeah, he's gonna have some of that. Of course he is. Anyway, okay. So, yeah, we're skipping the next, the frizzy blonde buffalo and her poor sex object. And you know what? I just fired Larissa and Eric. I started watching about the first 3 minutes of them, and I realized, no, they're going in the garbage, along with the arson and the frizzy blonde buffalo and the man whose name I cannot speak, who we were forced to watch walking on the beach in Bun Huggers, and his psycho mother and his fake girlfriend. So yeah. I can, however, tell you we're not going to diminish the numbers anymore unless something horrific happens, because I really care about Kalani. I really care about Sinjin. You know, so the people that we still have on here, I am committed to. So don't worry, these recaps are continuing. And, you know, I hope next time they do a season of Happily Ever After, they'll all be on there, because they'll do a better job of picking. But yeah, Larissa has joined. Larissa and Eriki have been thrown on the trash heap, because it's just, they're just, well, trashy, uninteresting. Larissa seems disturbed, and it's not, I don't care. I have to care a little, you guys. I'm doing this for you because I love you, but you have to realize, for me to be entertaining and for me to bring this to you with enthusiasm, I have to care a little. Even if it means that I don't like someone in a fun way, you know, like a villain like Kyle on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, or Lisa Rinna, I can work with that, I can have fun. But the problem is the people that I'm throwing away on Happily Ever After and refusing to cover are also just boring. They're not interesting, at least to me. So anyway. Okay, so no more Larissa and Eriki. Bye-bye. Bye. Buon noche. Now we have, I'm really loving Sinjin. I'm just loving Sinjin. Sinjin is out with his bras, his Afrikaner bras, and he is just so happy. He's so happy to be with his friends. He's so happy to be in his country. This guy, does not have any interest in America. He doesn't want to be an American. You know, he basically says in this episode, he had some really good sex with Tanya, which he probably mistook for love, and then went through this whole process, and then this whole forced 90-day thing, which, remember, for 30 of the 90 days, she's in Costa Rica with Rando Beach Boy. So, you know, the whole thing was just pressure, 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 blow up and, you know, get married. You know, it drives me crazy that you have these Afrikaner boys, men, young men, who live in Cape Town, who speak absolutely fluent English, and even with their Afrikaan accent, Afrikaans is like Dutch, and it's not like it's an accent that destroys English. It's not like a Laotian accent in English, which is like, what? You know, there's some accents that are very, very difficult to understand in English. No, this is you know, especially because he's a Cape Townian. He's not from some little, you know, village where everyone speaks Afrikaans and they don't speak English, like on a farm or something. No, they all speak English, and they speak English perfectly, and their accent sounds a little bit between like an English accent and a Dutch accent, and they subtitle them. I mean, they subtitle everybody on this show who doesn't speak, you know, American English. I'm surprised they didn't subtitle Tom. Did they subtitle his sister? Because she had kind of a Midlands accent. She had a really different accent, a very funky accent. It was funny because Tom's accent tried to be posh, and then his sister was like, you know, really common accent. I don't remember if they subtitled her, but I don't know. I feel like, oh my God, how stupid are Americans that we can't handle anything that isn't, you know, Tom Brokaw. I'm sorry, I'm showing my age, you know, newscaster. Why don't they, you know what, why don't they subtitle people with extreme country accents like Angela's poor mother, may she rest? You know, I just, because honestly, sometimes I need subtitles for people from Kentucky and Tennessee and parts of New Jersey. So it's just really funny to me that they subtitle anyone who's like, oh no, people might not understand this accent. Anyway, that's kind of, I'm sorry, it's kind of like, how dumb are we? Okay, Sinjin is in heaven. He's in heaven to be out with his bras and, you know, drinking Jaggers and having lager, and they're just like so happy to see him, and he's so happy to see them, and you know, they're teasing him that he's put on weight, and he said, yeah, I put on 15 kilos, which is like, you know, like around 30 pounds. That's a lot. You know, but they're ribbing him in a good-natured way, and it's clear that they really love him. So we find out some interesting things. He was living with these two guys. They had their happy bachelor pad, and one night, Sinjin brings Tanya home from the bar, and Tanya lives with them for 2 months. And we know Tanya. Tanya being Tanya, she tried to completely redo all the rules of the house and, you know, changed absolutely everything and wanted to restrict. It basically just came in and bossed everyone around. So the other roommates do not like Tanya. I don't like Tanya either. Tanya is not a likable person. So, yeah, I completely understand. And it's really interesting because, oh my God, the conversation that he's having with these guys. Yeah, you know, this pushy bitch moves in, kind of steamrollers him, says, hey, come to America with me. I'm sure she tells him it'll be easy for you to get a great job. He's probably thinking he's going to go make lots of money, get a great job. And he basically says to his bras, to his friends, he doesn't love America. He doesn't even like America. And he's not necessarily in love or madly in love with Tanya. He actually makes the point that, you know, he was rushed into everything, and it was more like lust. Sometimes lust can be mistaken for love. Ouch. Of course, Tanya's going to see all this, but even before she has a chance to see all this, they're going to have this discussion while they're in South Africa. I'm judging by the previews of coming attractions. Okay. You know, of course Tanya bossed the guys around. That's who she is. St. John actually says F a green card. He has no interest in it. He'd give it back. He has his doubts about the marriage. He was rushed into it. Yeah, he's drunk. Yeah, he's drunk. He's not smashed, but he's drunk. But I think in this case, the drinking is bringing out the truth. I don't think this is like rambling drunkenness. I think this is kind of like opening up, letting down your guard, and speaking your truth. They ask him, "Are you happy?" And he says, "I could be happier." And then he says, "I'm so happy to be in South Africa. I might never go back." I don't blame you, brah. Cape Town's such a great city. I love it so much. Yeah, so he's a thoughtful drunk. That's another category of drunk, along with affectionate drunk, mean drunk, weepy drunk. We have thoughtful drunk. He's a thoughtful drunk. Okay. Now we're going to go to Asuelu and Galani. Okay, Asuelu is really upset. His family has really hurt him by all their demands, and he tried to be a stand-up guy and say, "Look, I'm American now. I have to put my nuclear family, my wife and my kids first, and we do not have the money. We cannot give you $1,000. We can give you 100. That's it." But it was just, let's face it, this whole thing is ugly. It's ugly. Whether it is partially cultural, and I think it is, but I think that this is an especially kind of snaky family. I'm not impressed with his family. I'm not. Okay. So Asuelu's really, really hurt because he feels cut off with his family. And remember, this is like, you know, these Polynesian families are very clannish. And to be cut off from your family is like, oh my God, it's like you're cut off from everything. It's like you're cut off from your roots. So he goes to see his family again without Kalani. And this is when he gives them all the gifts that they bought from the Samoan store. All the things that you would think that they would not really be that impressed with, but they are. So he brings them pareus, you know, like sarongs and shirts. He brings, I guess, Samoan brand of chips to the kids. And he brings his mother the Samoan brand of tinned corned beef, which she's like, "Oh, this is my favorite flavor." I think canned meat only has one flavor, and that's like salty and gushy. Canned meat. Again, this is Hawaiians with their Spam and Samoans with their canned corned beef. It's, what can I say? It's a thing. Okay. All right, so he tells them that he's trying to be an American man and take care of his immediate family. American men take care of their wives and their children. So Tammy is just, his sister Tammy is just such a bitch. She's like, you know, what, you're disappointing us. What, you're not giving mom what she needs. So, your new family's more important than we are. She's just got a terrible attitude and just such a mean face. She's a really, really mean face. Okay. And then mom says, "Well, we're asking for your money, not Kalani's money." And he's like, no. In America, that's not the way it works. You get married and, my money is her money is my money. And the fact is we just don't have the money. We told you what we could give you. We could give you $100. Any more than that, we don't have. It's physically impossible for us to give you more than that. So the whole thing is just painful. And Tammy says, you're only together because you got her pregnant. I mean, like, what? Oh, that's a great help. Okay, what? I don't know. Just, these are very... And I'm so open to all different cultures, and I try to kind of make allowances for different cultures, but I don't think this sounds like it's just some kind of, Samoan thing. I think that it's also, there's something in this family that's not necessarily the healthiest, let's say. Okay, so Asuelu leaves and goes back to Kalani. Okay, we are of course skipping the arsonist from Kentucky because he is not part of my recap. And then we get back to Elizabeth's crime family and Andre. All right, so Dad gets this ridiculously fancy Airbnb. It's probably the nicest house in Chisnyov. It's like, it looks like, it's beautiful. Let's just say it's beautiful and brand new and white marble and very fancy. I'm sure it's the oligarchs of Moldova neighborhood, which makes sense because the oligarchs of Moldova make their money off, you know, scamming other people and ripping them off. And so does Chuck. So it's appropriate for him to be there. And he talks about how, you know, oh, well, when he saw that the slum, or the, what does he say, the ghetto or the slum or whatever, the horrible neighborhood that that Andre's family lives in, that he was like, oh, I can't stay in a place like that, so I'm glad I got something good. Yeah, you keep putting down Andre's lovely family with their lovely values and, you know, working hard, and you just keep going out there and scamming, you know, unmarried mothers and their children and laughing while they get evicted from the house that you don't own, that you rented out to them. I'm sorry, but I am not getting past that because that is just something that is so ugly. That is just, he is, anybody who would do that has no empathy for people. If you would commit that kind of crime, that kind of fraud, you just don't think of the consequences. You just think, oh, I need more money so I can build a new swimming pool, or I can give my daughter a nicer house, or whatever. I don't know. These are scummy people. This family, this Podhast family, Elizabeth's family, they're scummy. Okay. All right. Yeah, I wrote, oh, Chuck's very proud of his Airbnb that he paid for with his crime money. Okay. And Charlie starts talking about, you know, how Elizabeth comes to visit them in the fancy Airbnb, and Charlie's like, you know, he just didn't stand up, and you know, he was just being trouble, and he was just out of control, and I mean, just shut up and go snort another line, loser. Elizabeth tries to stand up for her husband slightly, which is amazing because usually she just caves in to her father and Charlie. And she says, no, Charlie, you contributed. You were poking him. You were needling him. You guys were asking him questions and you were just, you know, acting like he was already guilty. At least she said that. Okay. I really hate beta men acting like alphas, and that's what we have here. Chuck and Charlie are like, these big blobs. Yeah, well, you know, it's lucky things didn't get any worse because, you know, they would have had to flatten him. I mean, ugh, just stop it. Just stop it. They are so beta. Beta. You know, Andre, alpha male. May not be perfect, may not be rich, may not even be working right now, but I'm telling you, he's an alpha male. If he had to take care of you, if he had to fight someone off, if someone was attacking you and he had to like kill somebody who was trying to kill you or build you a shelter on a desert island, he could do it. Chuck and Charlie would be like, what? What do I do? Okay, and you know what? Another note, it takes a criminal to think that everyone else is a criminal. The way that Charlie and Chuck are just so quick to think that, oh, well, definitely Andre must have been a criminal and chased out of Moldova. Again, that criminals think like that because that's how they are, so they assume everyone else is also like that. All right. Okay. And then we get another threat to cancel the wedding where Chuck says, I will just close my checkbook and I will not pay for this and this wedding will not happen because it's not happening without my money. I just so wish Andre would be like, you know what, that's fine. You know what, in fact, Elizabeth, why don't you go back, take the baby, go back with your family. I'm going to spend a little time here with my friends. I need a little breathing room. I'll come back in a month. She would freak out. She would freak out. Okay, I'm not saying he should do that. I'm just saying. All right. Okay, we are now skipping Blonde Buffalo and other following embarrassments that are part of this show but not part of my recap, because I'm in charge here. And we get back to Asuelu. He's going to see Kalani after visiting his family. And actually now he is going to go with Kalani and meet just Mom, which is probably a good idea because Tammy is weird. She's aggressive. And like I said, even Rosa, the hearing disabled sister, was kind of hostile when he said he was only giving me $100. She was like signing like, not enough, not enough. So I think she's tough too. Anyway, so they decide they're going to have just Mom come and meet them. So they go to a petting zoo, and it's mostly goats. And I was laughing to my husband because, you know, goat is a staple of the diet of Samoa. So, of course, you know, Asuelu is like, you eat these goats? Like, you know, he figures some of them are like, it's a petting zoo, but then also some of them are going to be harvested off and sold for meat. So, and then when the mom comes, she says the same thing, like, oh, you know, and you can tell in their minds, they're like, oh, this one looked delicious. Wow, look at, there's a lot of meat on that one. So just kind of different, a cultural difference, you know, which is, yeah, a lot of cultures eat goat. And before I was pescatarian, yeah, I would eat goat and lamb and not think anything of it, because in places like Africa and the Caribbean and lots of parts of the world, that's just sort of a normal meat. I never really thought anything of it. And, you know, but some people get freaked out by the thought of eating goat. I don't know why. What's the difference between cow, goat, sheep, whatever, if you're going to eat four-legged animals? I don't know. Okay, that's why I don't eat four-legged animals or animals with legs at all. Okay. Oliver and Kennedy are so adorable, running around there chasing the goats, and this kind of like bitchy woman who's in charge of the petting zoo says, if we could possibly like not have running after the animals. Well, if you bring small children together with animals, pretty much guarantee you that the first thing they're going to do, especially little boys, is chase after the animals. Any petting zoo I've ever been to with children, the children are doing what? Chasing the chicken, chasing the chickens, chasing the lambs, chasing the goats, chasing the alpacas. It's what children do. They want to pet something, and they don't understand that if you run after the animal's going to quickly try and avoid you. Okay. All right. So yeah, so Mom shows up and Kalani wanders off. She decides she wants to give Asuelu time. He's talking to his mom, and she's really upset. She's saying, you know what, I'm old and I'm poor, I can't work, I'm dependent on you. If you were a real Samoan man, you would pay me, you would give me the money that I need. You know, in America, life is expensive. And Asuelu's like, yeah, and I'm an American man now, and life is expensive, and I don't have the money to give you because I have to take care of my children, my defenseless children. You know, you're an adult. You're not disabled. You're not fully disabled. I mean, you know, you have other children that are helping to take care of you. I need to take care of my children. So Asuelu's sort of stepping up. And then Kalani kind of joins in from the side, and they show Mom, there's a homeless camp, I guess, outside the petting zoo. Random, but yeah. And they point to this tent city that's a homeless like tent camp, and they're like, you know, this is where people live who can't manage to pay for a place to live, so they have to live out in the open in tents. And Asuelu gets very, very emotional. He says, I don't want my children to be like that. I don't want my children to be poor. I don't want my children to have nothing because I gave everything to my parents. And it's very fake crying. Asuelu's crying is extremely fake crying. However, the point he's making is valid, so I'll give him a pass on the fake crying. You know, usually I am the fake crying police, but in this case, I'll give him a pass. Okay. And you know, that his mother's still saying, you know, before he was married to you, he used to give me money. God, this is just evil. It's just so many kinds of wrong. I mean, I've heard of things like this where you're trying to manipulate your kids because you're trying to get them to marry someone that you want, that you approve of. You're trying to get them to stop from marrying someone who's not of your religion or not of your ethnicity or whatever, but just to say, to go through this and to cause your child so much pain, just to say, because you better give me money. If you don't give me money, you don't love me. It's ugly and it's painful. And mom's just not going to relent. The only way that they're going to stop this with her is to either give her money or just put distance between themselves and her, which is sad and it sucks, but that in this family, I don't want to say in this whole culture because I don't know enough. I know some Samoans, but I don't know enough Samoans. And most of the Samoans I know are more like Samoan Americans that lived in Southern California. So they'd already been, kind of had that mix of Samoan and American culture. And I don't think that this is purely Samoan, because she is not going to relent until they give her money. Love is money. Love is money. You love me, show me the money. Okay, now we're back in Chisinau and in Moldova, and Andre invites Chuck and Charlie to get together with him, a little meeting with him. Andre gets together with him, and I love the irony of where he wants to meet them. He picks an armaments museum. It's full of old Soviet, heavy artillery and jets and tanks and stuff like that. I don't know, there's something really funny about that, saying, yeah, let's meet and have a peace talk at a Soviet armament museum. I just thought it was kind of funny. I hope that Andre is clever enough that he was doing it as a little to them. I don't know. I am, however, very disappointed in Andre because he gives in and he apologizes to them and says it was the alcohol. No, it wasn't. They were being jerks. They were being complete assholes. I wish that there was a way that he could say something like, let's just start it with a clean slate without actually having to say, I'm sorry, I was drunk. I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like Chuck and Charlie scoring a victory over Andre like that. Maybe I'm petty. Oh, I have been known to be petty. Anyway, if you don't have anything nice to say, come on over and sit next to me, in the words of Mae West. Okay. Dad says, oh, you just want us here, you just want us to stay, and you're just apologizing because you want us to pay for the wedding. Just assholes. They're such assholes. You know what? He's apologizing. Shut the F up. Part of me just wishes Andre would just kind of give one of those, like in the movies when someone just kind of punches someone from the side and they just topple over. I'm sorry, I don't condone violence. It's not appropriate, but Charlie's so gross and Andre is just, yeah, it would be funny. But again, I don't condone violence, so I'm not saying that should happen. I just had a mental picture, which you can't help things that appear in your mind. And I imagine Andre just kind of looking straight ahead and going like this, sideways and knocking Charlie over. Okay, so Chuck and Charlie admit to absolutely no fault over poking him and grilling him and, giving him so much grief in front of his friends. And they didn't do anything wrong. They shake hands. Okay, but you know what? It doesn't matter. Even with his apology, Andre is by far the better man. Okay? I'm just saying. Anyway. Thank you so much for joining me for this abridged recap of 90 Day Fiancé Happily Ever After with the chosen cast members that are still a part of my recap, who I find interesting, and they're not going anywhere. Don't worry, we're not getting any smaller. I promise you. And again, I'm still doing everyone in The Other Way, which I think is so far superior this season. The Other Way I think has been really great. I mean, I think one couple drives me crazy, but it's been quite good. And I hope that when next time they do Happily Ever After, they might choose a little more carefully and we don't have to deal again with the same horrible, annoying people, and that we get maybe a fresh batch. Maybe like people from this season of The Other Way or the next season of 90 Day Fiancé, because how much Angela and Michael and Colt and Larissa can human beings bear without losing all their brain cells? I mean, really, how much Paul and Karina, can we stand? Anyway, again, thank you for joining me. Please do me the very great service of pushing the subscribe button. And if you do subscribe, please make sure to go down in the comments and just give me your name. Say, hi, I'm so-and-so, I've subscribed, and I promise you I will answer you personally to thank you, or probably thank you on a recap as well. And also like, comment, join me again. I have several recaps coming up the next few days. I have The Other Way, Beverly Hills, and New York, and I just, Potomac is coming out about the same time as this. So love to have you here with me, and I'll see you soon. Be careful, be good, but not too good. Bye.